Sebastian Bourdais and Renger van der Zande put all of their talent on display in tricky, rainy conditions at Indy. Now, this fan favorite yellow-nosed Cadillac has built a reputation over the past 2 seasons of not only being incredibly fast, but also so unlucky. Despite this misfortune, the 01 car enters the penultimate round in 3rd place in the championship, just behind the 2 Penske Porsches. So, with the field preparing to go back to green with just over 5 hours remaining, Bourdais has to overtake the number 7 black striped Porsche of Felipe Nasr if he and Renger van der Zande have any hope at winning this full season championship. Nasr squeezes the throttle though as he makes his way through this long right-hander and onto the high banks to take the field across the start-finish line and back to green. But Bourdais is firmly in his wheel tracks and in his draft as they make their way into turn 1. Bourdais brakes as late as he dares and goes up the inside of Felipe Nasr, who has to cede the position to his championship rival, but Bourdais runs deep into the chicane. Nasr has a better run coming out of the corner, but has to back out of it to avoid making contact with the rear of the 01. Bourdais runs wide through this long right-hander though, and Nasr holds a tighter line and is able to carry more speed through the chicane and onto the back straight, but he nearly loses it on the curbing that is painted on the exit, which is so slippery in these conditions. Bourdais' car now sparking down the back straight as he defends to the inside through the sequence of tight corners, forcing Nasr to fall in behind that 01 car through this sequence. As they make their way through this right-hander, Bourdais runs wide once again, and Nasr has a run coming out of that slow right-hander, and through this second right-hander onto the high banks, Bourdais runs slightly wide, and Nasr pokes his nose up the inside of the yellow-nosed Cadillac of Bourdais, who cedes the position this time to Nasr. So as they exit this tight left-hander and re-enter the oval one more time, it is Nasr once again leading Bourdais down the front straight. And if you haven't heard the news, this could potentially be Bourdais' final full season in IMSA, with rumors that he's moving to WEC with Joda. Let's hope that's not true, as Bourdais brakes late around the outside, once again showing his performance on the brakes into turn 1. Nasr able to hold that tight line though and keep Bourdais on his outside and behind through the long right-hander, and Bourdais once again runs a really wide line, with Nasr holding it tighter on the exit and able to gap that 01 Cadillac just a little bit on the exit. But through the chicane, Bourdais has a run on the number 7 Porsche, and Nasr now is holding the inside line, with Bourdais poking his nose up the inside, but just not risking it in these conditions, as Nasr runs deep into that left-hander, with Bourdais pushing him to the very limits of adhesion in these conditions. Through this tight sequence of corners, and Bourdais falls in line behind the 7 Porsche, with Nasr this time running a wide line, and Bourdais running the tighter line through the exit. Bourdais potentially moving from IMSA to WEC isn't the only news for this 01 car, however, because Cadillac Racing and Chip Ganassi Racing will be parting ways at the end of this season. So with this era coming to an end, you know that a championship and a victory is all the more meaningful to all parties involved. And as they make their way down the front straight one more time, Nasr is all the way over on the right side to keep his wet tires cool in these conditions. Bourdais once again brakes late, but Nasr brakes even later, running slightly wide through the apex, pushing his number 7 Porsche to the absolute limit in these wet conditions as they slide their way coming through the exit. Into the long right-hander, Nasr clips the curb on the entry and nearly loses the rear of his number 7 Porsche. Bourdais slides through on the inside, past his championship rival to reclaim the lead. These 2 heavyweights trading punches in these damp conditions. As they enter the sequence of low-speed corners, Bourdais runs slightly wide, pushing that 01 car to its limit. And if we look up the road, we can see that traffic is ahead of this number 01 car and is going to start to play a role in this battle. through the right-hander that leads onto the high banks, and Bourdais cruises around the outside of a GTD Mercedes, with Nasr poking up the inside and looking up the inside of Bourdais as well, who leaves space at the apex for that number 7 Porsche. We see a slow LMP2 car on the outside. Nasr tries to go around the outside of Bourdais, who is not able to use all the road on the exit, has to hold a tight line, and allows Nasr to squeeze past down the front straight, but Nasr runs slightly wide on the exit. Bourdais gets the better run coming out of the corner, and they are side by side down the front straight in these rainy conditions, with Bourdais now poking a nose ahead of the number 7 car into the braking zone as they encounter yet more GTD traffic. Bourdais runs slightly deep through the right-hander and is compromised by traffic through the left-hander. He finally gets on the throttle through the exit and makes his way around the outside of a GTD Porsche, with Nasr following closely behind this number 01 car. Through the chicane, and Bourdais extends the gap on Nasr behind, now showing more performance in his number 01 Cadillac. But just ahead of him is an absolute gaggle of GTD cars. We can see a slow Corvette on the inside that Bourdais has to navigate past. Nasr dives to the apex through this right-hander, past that Corvette as well, as Bourdais squeezes the throttle past the 45 Lamborghini and through the exit of the slow sequence of corners, now finds himself behind an LMP2 and a Ferrari GTD. But the yellow flag has come out, neutralizing this race. And as the field gets ready to go back green flag racing, we can see that the rain has gotten much, much heavier. These are going to be treacherous conditions for the GTP drivers. Bourdais creeps his way through this final left-hander, but listen to him feather the throttle through this right-hander as he makes his way onto the high banks. Just behind, we can see how blinding the spray is coming off the 01 Cadillac, with Felipe Nasr moving to the right-hand side just to try to get some visibility going into turn 1. As he hits the brakes, we can hear the rear end lock up. There is Bourdais just in front of him. There's the corner. Nasr nearly makes contact with the 01 as he goes screaming through that first corner, completely out of control in these wet conditions. Fortunately, though, he is able to gather it up and get back on course. No harm, no foul, with the 7 car falling behind the number 01. Despite this hitch for the number 7 of Felipe Nasr, Bourdais is still under an immense amount of pressure from the sister number 6 Porsche, and as he exits a slow right-hander leading onto the high banks, we can look to the right-hand side and see that there is the 6 Porsche, the white stripe one of Mathieu Jaminet. It comes screaming past as they hit the brakes through the final chicane. That number 6 Porsche showing a lot of performance in these extreme wet conditions, and Bourdais just slightly struggling now in his number 01 Cadillac. Through the first chicane and into the long right-hander, we can see more GTD Pro traffic for the Cadillac in the form of a Risi Ferrari and a Rexy Porsche as they nearly make contact with the 01 car. Rexy is forced off the road through the chicane by the 62 as Bourdais squeezes past that green Porsche and then the 62 Risi Ferrari. But that GT traffic has put Bourdais on the back foot, and if we look to the right-hand side, we can see the green nose of Romain Grosjean's number 63 Lamborghini, who shuffles the 01 car back to 3rd position in GTP. An incredible showing from this number 63 car, going toe-to-toe with the best GTP machinery. Fortunately, though, with just over 2 hours and 40 minutes left in the race, the rain has finally relented and the track has dried out. So, with Nick Yellowly leading the field back to green, Renger van der Zande can finally show the true performance of this number 01 Cadillac. Yellowly slams the throttle coming through the final corner, and Jordan Taylor's Acura twitches as he struggles to put the power down. Renger van der Zande has a run on both of them coming out of the final corner, but the Acura is firmly in the draft of the BMW and pops to the left-hand side. It is a drag race into turn 1. Jordan Taylor brakes late around the outside, but locks up and runs wide, allowing van der Zande to sneak past and close in on the number 25 BMW, which struggles for grip on the exit through the left-hander. through the long right-hander, and Van der Zande holds a tight line with the BMW running towards the middle of the track. Van der Zande has a run through the chicane as the BMW clobbers the curb and kicks up dust on the exit. Down the back straight, Van der Zande has a run on the BMW, but yellowly defends to the inside through this tight sequence of corners. The BMW holds the position, but gets a twitch as he tries to put the power down in these low grip conditions. Through the left-hander, they clobber the curb, and through this right-hander, they make their way back onto the high banks with that BMW holding position in front of the 01 car. Van der Zande breaks late into this tight right-hander, and we see a little puff of smoke as the BMW locks up and runs deep through the right-hander. Yellowly defends into the left-hander. Van der Zande gets a wide run through the entry and gets a better run coming out of the exit. The over-under is complete, and the number 01 car is back in the lead of the race. All it took was one lap to go from third to first in the GTP category. Finally, with a clear track ahead of him, Van der Zande can push the pace in his number 01 car and try to build a gap to his GTP competitors behind. But we will flash ahead 10 minutes as Van der Zande has now caught GTD traffic, which is never far away here at Indy. Van der Zande backs out of the throttle to get a run through the chicane and onto the back straight as he flashes past Tommy Milner in the GTD Pro Corvette. But we will do something a bit different and stay on board this number 4 Corvette, because I think it gives you a unique perspective as to how close this GTP racing really is at IMS, as Van der Zande now swings around the outside of a GTD Aston, compromising its run through this tight sequence of corners and pushing it back into the clutches of the number 90 Porsche behind and its class rival, the number 4 Corvette. Number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin defends to the inside with the Corvette making its way around the outside, braking late, but it's too late. Tommy Milner hits the back of that 27 Aston, and we can see the BMW and Lamborghini, which are just behind the 01 Cadillac, which comes streaming past, but the 9 Pfaff McLaren also makes his way around Tommy Milner, who now lost a place in his GTD Pro category, with the number 40 Acura of Jordan Taylor coming around the outside through the final corner, and the number 6 Porsche coming streaming past as well, with the 7 car following closely behind, with the BMW and the Acura also right on his heels. This is insanely tight racing here at Indy, with Tommy Milner going around the outside of the Acura into turn 1, and the BMW and the McLaren making contact just ahead, with mud being kicked up in this battling. This could not get closer as the number 9 Pfaff McLaren is compromised by the 10 Acura through that long sweeping right-hander. And as they make their way onto the back straight, Tommy Milner tries to find his way past as the final 2 of the top 10 GTP cars come streaming past. This is how close the racing really is as Tommy Milner looks around the outside of the number 9 Pfaff McLaren, but is not able to make the move stick. It is not just the GTP cars having an incredible battle, it is the GTD cars as well. And as this stint comes to an end, Renger van der Zande pulls to the right-hand side with his GTP competitors just behind him and into the pit lane. Van der Zande makes his way down pit lane and then streams into his pit box with the crew jumping over the wall to install a set of fresh tires. With the stop complete, Van der Zande is dropped from the jacks and sent on his way. This pit stop for the 01 car was called at the perfect time, just before the safety car came out. So, with the field ready to go back green flag racing, the number 01 car lines up in third place, but first of the cars on the optimal strategy, and just behind the 85 JDC Miller yellow Porsche, which is one lap down, but fighting to get back on the lead lap. And as the 3 cars ahead jostle for position going back to green, Renger van der Zande will look to make quick work of Phil Hansen in that number 85 car just out front. Through the final corner, Renger van der Zande has a run on the 85 Porsche of Phil Hansen, who weaves to put temperature into his dry tires down the front straight. Into turn 1, Van der Zande is up the inside of the JDC Miller Porsche and makes quick work of the fan favorite banana boat as he now sets his focus on that beautiful matte black number 5 Proton Porsche of Picarillo. And I really hope I'm saying that right, and if I'm not, please let me know. And I just have to say, it is so impressive for this privately entered number 5 Porsche to be holding its own amongst these factory juggernauts in the GTP category. down the back straight though, and Alessio Piccarello is coming up on GTD traffic, and he has absolutely nowhere to go as he has to sit in behind. That Porsche really holds him up as he slams on the brakes, and Van der Zande sneaks up the inside through the right-hander past Piccarello, taking second place in the GTP category. Van der Zande showing his skill and experience as he breathes out of the throttle, making his way past the Iron Dames Lamborghini as well, now tucked up behind an LMP2 car. Through the penultimate corner, Van der Zande clips all of the apex curb, holds it towards the middle of the track to try to set up a better run coming out of the final corner and onto the front straight. We hear Van der Zande breathe out of the throttle as these are low grip conditions, but easily makes his way past the LMP2 car as he encounters now a humongous amount of GTD traffic into turn 1. He is caught behind the 32 Mercedes through this right-hander. Van der Zande keeps it to the middle of the road and then tucks to the left-hand side to make his way around the outside. No, he thinks about it again, goes up the inside into this long right-hander. Now, as we see the 55 Mustang just ahead, Van der Zande breathes out of the throttle to build a gap before slamming the throttle through the chicane to get a run coming onto the back straight. But although we can't see it here, that run has not worked as he dives to the left-hand side of the Magnus Racing Aston Martin as the number 6 Porsche is up his inside. Van der Zande moves over to the right-hand side with Tandy sweeping up the inside to claim first position for Penske aboard that white stripe number 6 Porsche. And as they make their way through this right-hander, Tandy begins to build a gap on the number 01 Cadillac. And as they make their way past the Risi Ferrari, Van der Zande breathes out of the throttle before slamming on the brakes into this tight right-hander. With Tandy caught behind one of the GTD Pro Corvettes, he sneaks his way up the inside through that tight left-hander and around this final right-hander. Van der Zande is able to make his way past. Van der Zande may be behind, but he is certainly not going to give up. And into turn 1, he brakes as late as he dares to stay close to this number 6 Porsche. Through the left-hander, they move their way over to the right-hand side of the road before opening up the steering wheel and allowing the car to move all the way over to the left to set up this long right-hander. They clip the apex, move towards the middle of the road, and Van der Zande gets a better run through the chicane as Tandy absolutely clobbers that right-hand apex curb, trying to take as much speed as he can onto this back straight. Van der Zande is up the inside of the Iron Dames Lamborghini. They both clip the apex curb and hustle the car back to the middle of the road before using all of the apex curb on the right, all of the apex curb on the left. Keep it tight to the left-hand side to set up the exit of this right-hander. Back onto the high banks, Tandy is still ahead, but Van der Zande is not giving up and pushing as hard as he possibly can, squeezing up the inside of the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. Van der Zande runs a little bit wide, nearly off the track, pushing this 01 car to its limit. He clips the apex curb on the left, keeps it towards the middle of the road as he sets up the exit to this long right-hander. We see a little wiggle as the car is struggling for grip, but Van der Zande is pushing on in this number 01, trying to catch the number 6 Porsche. He brakes late, trying to catch up to Tandy. We see a little wiggle, but he's deep into turn 1, runs wide. The number 25 BMW looks to capitalize on this mistake as he goes around the outside through the left-hander, but makes contact with the Cadillac's right rear. The number 25 BMW pokes his nose up the inside through the long right-hander, but Yeltley gets a little wiggle on the exit as he struggles to put the power down. Now, firmly in the draft of the Cadillac as they head down the back straight. Yeltley pops to the right-hand side, and they go side by side into the sequence of tight corners. The 25 BMW is late on the brakes and makes his way around the outside of the Cadillac, bringing BMW up into second position with the Cadillac now under fire from the 40 Acura. Delatraz pokes his nose up the inside, but Van der Zande is able to hold on around the outside, put the power down as he goes past the 65 Ford Mustang, clobbering the apex curb in the process, hitting the brakes late into the chicane, but loses the rear of his car as Delatraz is all over Van der Zande, who pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane, suspecting that something is wrong with his right rear after making contact with the 25 BMW. Unfortunately, though, as Van der Zande pulls into the pit box, it is a story as old as time for this 01 crew. Because as the team replaces the tires and puts Bourdais aboard, they try to rejoin the race to salvage some sort of decent result from what looked like such a promising day for the 01 car. But as Bourdais is on his outlap, that rear right tire goes flat once again, proving that something more sinister is wrong with this 01 car. And unfortunately, it is once again another day that showed so much hope for the 01 crew, ending in disappointment. Anyways, I hope despite this disappointment, you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much if you made it this far for watching. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the support. I want to give a special thanks to all the channel members. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.